I was thinking about that woman who killed 3 of your children. And especially I was thinking about those millions of women who have their own kids and who identify themselves with that woman, who post videos on TikTok with support for this woman, and also who donate money to her because, as far as I know, she raised already about $2 million. I'm trying to understand, how can you celebrate that? Even if this woman has such a mental issue, but the action doesn't justify what she did. I don't see much display compassion toward murdered kids. It's like seems nothing. A lot of people just forgot about the kids. I was thinking about when I write a book, I have to identify myself sometimes with the worst characters in my book because I have to get into their skin and try to understand their motivation, try to understand why they do the way they do this. And it seems incredibly brutal because it gives you such an effect, such an unpleasant feeling. And this identification is helpful when you write a book, but I never celebrate the killers or serial killers or rapists. I don't celebrate them. And I try to understand for my book why they do this. But there's no celebration in that because there's such a line between understanding or celebration or acceptance. Because we can understand why people commit certain crimes, but it doesn't mean we should forgive those crimes to those people. Because if we're going to do that, then there's going to be no justice, because justice will depend on people's emotions. If they feel like it, this criminal will be forgiven. And the victim, in this case, don't matter. And that's wrong because there's a crime that was committed. And now this person must be punished for committing this crime. And it doesn't matter if there's something wrong with this person. The lives were taken away. And there's no other way around but punishment. And I was thinking about the way how we now perceive criminals and thugs. It seems like we have a lot of compassion for the worst element in our society. It seems like we want to support them. We want the worst immigrants. We want to forgive all criminals, rapists, pedophiles. We want to justify their crimes through a bunch of scientifically sounding words. But in reality, we just ignore victims who got destroyed by those monsters and keep being destroyed because those monsters getting released constantly without paying for their crimes. They get so little time in prison. And they keep getting released again and again, and then we see murders, assaults, rapes, and many other things. I mean, you see Europe now when they have immigrants from countries where they have to tell them not to rape women. What kind of immigrants you admit to your countries that you have to tell them that they shouldn't rape women? What the hell is going on? I mean, I thought we're supposed to be civilized society, incredibly educational society, intelligent society who understand the world and people. Why are we so blind to simple things that human nature is not good? It must be civilized. It must be trained to be good because men and women can become evil. And they have to train themselves to restrain themselves constantly because we can justify everything we want. Any crime we can justify. I used to work in prison, and you know how many pedophiles over there who committed hideous crimes were justifying their crimes with a smirk on their faces, without no repentance in their eyes. They just thought what they did was nothing wrong, and everybody do the same things. Usual routine for these people. That's the problem. And now I see a bunch of women holding kids, making TikTok videos in support of this monster who killed 3 little kids. And I don't understand how can you do that? How you can identify yourself with this monster, celebrate this monster, and then donate your money to this monster. I just don't understand. Why would you do that openly? It seems like morality became irrelevant. There's no more morality in this world. We became so civilized. We became Lucifers who obsessed with their own intelligence because you can justify with smart sounding words every hideous crimes that you or somebody you know commit because it's easy. There's always a reason, and it's always easy to redirect your responsibility on somebody else. Or say there's nothing wrong with that. Like I hear a bunch of women justifying the crime. There was 3 kids who were killed. How you can even think about that? I mean, it's really hard for me to comprehend. Especially it's interesting when some women, they say that they would never date a man who doesn't support this monster. What kind of man those women would find? Criminals? Psychopaths? Those men who would destroy them? Who would grind them into hell and destroy completely their life? What they're playing with? There seems like they don't understand what men are capable of. And I would really understood if the case was she was abused by her husband and she decided to kill her husband as the result of the abuse. I would understand this support. I would. Because some men deserve to die when they abuse their women, their wives. But not where 3 innocent children were strangulated one at a time. How you can justify that? How you can even reason with that? Are you so brainwashed? Are you so lack of morals? You don't have no morality. You have no conception of right and wrong, and everything is irrelevant. And if so, then you have no right to complain if somebody brutal, strong come to your place and decided to enforce his or her morality upon your household. Because we have to have common moral ground. We have to have similar idea of good and evil. Because if we don't have this any longer, there's no way for us to coexist with each other. And all these TikTok videos these women produced, holding their own babies in their hands, in their arms, how they can even understand the reality this way. It's really hard to comprehend for me. It's really hard because I don't understand how you can do stuff like that. And I'm writing incredibly violent books, but I understand what's real and what not real. I would never support somebody who takes somebody's life, especially the life of a child. How you can support that? How you can justify that? It doesn't matter what happened to her. What matters, there was 3 kids who died, who's not supposed to die. They're innocent. There's nothing worse in this world than to murder a child. There's not worse sin. It's unforgivable sin to commit. You have to be a monster to do that. And seems like it's insane because a lot of women support that. They try to support this woman. They find this justification about her mental state. And I'm not saying her mental state is not real. I'm saying, why don't you talk about those kids who died, who lost their lives? Why nobody has compassion and empathy? Because we destroy the most greatest and beautiful civilization on this planet if we go this way. If there's no right and no wrong, and there's no God, then anybody can be God. And if you're strong, if you're ready to kill, and if you have a bunch of money, then you can become God, then you can become dictator, and then you can justify atrocities against other people as it was thousands of times before. That's how it works when society collapses their moral framework. When society take God out of equation, out of the center of their moral framework, they would install a dictator, a human being who would tell them to kill, who would justify their murderous desire to kill behind ideological ideas. That's what we are. We're just apes in the end, who don't care about anything. And that's what we need God. That's why we need to preserve this moral framework, this Christianity. Because without it, that's what we have. We have millions of women who support a child killer, who donate money to a child killer, who wanna select their mate basic on how this mate view this child killer. Think about it for a second. We have women who tell, if you do not support this child killer, I'm not gonna date you. I mean, it's a good thing because at least you've been warned. You don't wanna wake up with a woman like this because you can get killed or something else, because you cannot trust people like that. It's an absolute psychopathy. And without moral framework, we will degrade. It's wrong. There's not a single reasonable justification. Not a single, because you can find justification at all. There's 3 kids who were killed by her. You can't justify that. You can find the way how to justify her murders, what she did, because that's impossible. And that's what happened when the moral framework collapsing all around us, just because we forgot about God, forgot about churches, forgot about theology, forgot that the entire Christian world was built on the idea that we all made by the image of God. That's why we have human rights and treat each other with respect. Without this idea, without God, without this Christian idea of God, we won't never treat each other with respect. Because look at other cultures. They're not the same. That's why Christian civilization is the most successful civilization on the planet. But now it's collapsing under this hedonistic freedom where people don't have shame anymore. These women who support this murder literally have no shame. And without shame, you have no respect to yourself nor to other people. And that's why we have a bunch of women with their own little children making videos for TikTok where they support openly to this monster who killed her own kids.